You're watching a More Beautiful World podcast with Susan Renee, a channel for those of you with open minds and courageous hearts who are looking for guidance on your trauma healing and personal transformation journeys. Here, I share with you the powers of intentional plant medicine use, along with other holistic therapies and spiritual guidance to guide you on your path forward. I'm so eager to share with you what I've learned in working with these sacred plant medicines on my own journey, including the knowing that what we do to heal ourselves, we do to heal the whole collective. Join me as I share my experiences, knowledge, and wisdom to guide your trauma healing so you can transform your life, and so that together we can create the more beautiful world we all know is possible. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of A More Beautiful World. In this episode, we're going to be exploring resilience and how building up your resilience allows you to navigate your recovery and transformation with more ease. As you move through the recovery and transformation journey, it is very likely you will encounter being triggered at some point. And when that happens, without having resilience in your foundation, it will be extremely challenging and difficult to navigate that trigger. And that's why today I want to share with you how you can implement some key practices to proactively build up your resilience and move through these triggered states with more grace, compassion, and ease. So if you are eager to learn how to navigate your journey with more ease by building up your resilience in life, then this episode is for you. A quick ask, as always, before we dive into this episode, if you are listening out there on one of the audio platforms like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please drop me in a rating or review. I would love to know what you think of this podcast, and your support and rating really help me to get these messages out to the world. And make sure to follow the pod while you're there too. And of course, if you are watching this episode on YouTube, remember to like this video and subscribe for more. And always feel free to drop me a comment there too, because I love hearing what you think of these episodes. So I have been reflecting a lot lately on my own recovery and my own transformation journey. And what I have been noticing in reflection is I am moving a lot more easily through these ebbs that have been showing up in my life. I'm noticing I have a lot more strength and stamina in my being that honestly has never been here before. I'm so grateful for it, and it's been really quite incredible, and it feels very powerful to recognize it, though it's gotten me curious as I've been reflecting. How am I making this happen? Where did this come from? And how am I no longer staying stuck in these emotional ruts? How have I been continuing to move forward, on my journey with more grace and with more self-compassion? And really the ultimate question that brought me to the creation of this episode, how did I cultivate the ability to navigate my life with more ease? Well, I have found that I have been able to do it because I have chosen to cultivate resilience. I'm honestly not even sure if I've done this work entirely consciously, though nonetheless it has happened. And I am so grateful for it because it really has brought me so many benefits. And I wanted to share with you today what resilience is, why you need it as you move through your recovery and transformation, how you can build resilience up in your own self, in your own life. And I also will be sharing a story about how this all recently played out in my life and how I'm having this moment of reflection and gratitude for the resilience that I have cultivated. So, as always, a powerful episode for you all. But let's begin with what is resilience? Let's make sure we know what we are talking about today. So, the dictionary would define resilience as the ability to withstand and recover quickly from difficulties. It is synonymous with toughness, and it's also very closely related to strength and stamina and endurance. I found another definition of resilience, and that is resilience is the process and outcome of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences, especially through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and adjustment to external and internal demands. So I think those definitions really capture what resilience is, right? It's our ability to adapt to difficult, challenging experiences that show up. It's our ability to be able to recover quickly from these difficulties. And as I am sharing it in this episode, I believe resilience is being able to navigate our journeys, and these ebbs, these difficulties, these challenges that come in with more grace and ease. I do feel, and as I've kind of looked into resilience, there are some different aspects of resilience. There is physical resilience, emotional, mental, social, and even spiritual resilience. And I'll talk about ways to bring in resilience to all of these parts of ourselves as I go through this podcast. Though first, let's talk about why you need resilience. So, what is the purpose of this episode? Why do you need resilience and why is it important? And that is because triggers happen. As you move through addiction recovery, as you move through your personal transformation and even plant medicine integration work, when there is a history of trauma present, we are bound to get triggered as we move through our lives. There are going to be events and circumstances and people that trigger us. And what happens when we get triggered is our nervous system moves into the sympathetic state of fight, flight, or freeze. And when that happens, this can catch us off guard. We do not always know, sometimes we never really know when we're going to be triggered. And if we're caught off guard by it, it can be difficult and uncomfortable and even quite painful to move through the experience. Just as stress is inevitable in life, and we need to build up our tolerance to stress to be able to handle and cope with stress in healthier ways, being triggered when we have a history of trauma is pretty much inevitable at some point, just like stress is. And we need to, again, build up our coping skills to these triggers because you don't want to be taken down, and completely knocked off course when you get triggered. So you do need to build up your body, your mind, your spirit with strength, with stamina, with endurance, and with this toughness. So you have the resilience to navigate these moments or periods of being triggered, these moments of difficulty and challenge, so you can navigate them with more grace and with more ease. So I want to start today and continue in this podcast by giving you a recent example of how this played out in my life. So my partner and I just went through a bit of a challenging ebb, in our relationship. And without giving too much detail, because there is a lot that goes into situations, in short, he got triggered by something in his own life, and it made him experience some depression. And this depression he was experiencing coincided with me visiting him. And so I was actually with him in person through the thick of him going through this experience of depression. Luckily, I have a lot of tools, to sit with and hold space for these emotions. I work with a lot of clients who, go through periods of depression and anxiety. And so I was able to hold space and I wasn't experiencing any judgment or anger. However, what did happen in my experience is that I ended up getting triggered. And because of what he was experiencing and what he was moving through, I felt as if we were more disconnected. I felt as if he was a bit withdrawn, and I felt as if I was being pushed away because of how he was feeling. And when I got home from the trip, and I was able to kind of sit with it and process it, what was happening in my own experience is that the abandonment wound that I have, which is one of my deepest wounds, was being triggered. I didn't want to be pushed away, right? I didn't want space. I didn't want to feel disconnected from him. And this trigger, brought up some deep fear, right? The fear of losing him, the fear of the relationship ending, and the ultimate fear, the deep wound I have, that I was going to be abandoned. So I will tell you what I did here in a moment with this trigger and how I navigated it with more ease and how I was able to even navigate it with more ease. But before I do that, I want to share with you some key ways to build resilience. Because it wasn't just what I did in the moment and recognizing the trigger, it was everything that I have brought into my life, everything that I had done up to that moment, all the things I've brought into my self-care routine that really helped me to navigate the whole situation with more grace, with more compassion, and with more ease. So before I dive into some key ways and practices to build up your resilience, I want to give you maybe a quick disclaimer on resilience. Because as in any part of our journey, as we're moving through recovery, as we're moving through our transformation journey, you have to want and desire change. I have worked with several clients over the years that maybe I didn't do a thorough enough job on screening them before taking them on as a client, or maybe just things changed for them, whatever it was. But sadly, they ended up not being ready to step into these deeper levels of work because it takes a lot of willingness and a lot of willpower to make these changes in your life. It takes a lot of courage and a deep desire to go on this journey to be better and to want for more. And you do have to choose this path, and you have to have desire for different outcomes. So as I go into ways to cultivate resilience, I want you to just check in with yourself if you have this willingness, because it is a key factor in cultivating resilience in your own being. And ultimately, it is a big factor in navigating your journey with more ease and more grace all across the board. So if you have identified, yes, Susan Renee, I have this willingness, I am ready to cultivate some resilience, tell me how to do it. Let's talk about it. So, as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of different aspects of resilience. There is physical, there is mental, there is emotional, there is social, there is spiritual resilience. And I'm going to touch on each one a little bit with the practices I'm going to share. But ultimately, I do feel that creating more resilience in your life starts with creating a self-care routine. And that self-care routine is going to bring in tools to help you self-regulate, to help you be more in your body, to have more awareness of what's happening in your body, mind, and spirit. And I truly have found, for myself personally and for working with clients, that self-care is at the heart of the expansion and the development of resilience. So with that, what self-care practices, can we bring in to cultivate this resilience? So the number one thing, I don't know if it's necessarily a self-care practice, but it's at the core of just about everything we talk about. So it shouldn't be a surprise for you. And that is really cultivating your self-awareness. Okay. And self-awareness hits on the physical, the spiritual, the mental, emotional, social aspects of resilience. I believe before we move into any type of self development work, it is of utmost importance to invite in some expanded self awareness. We need to be in tune with how we are feeling, in our body, in our mind, in our spirit, and really have the awareness of how right now we are navigating our life. We need to be present and mindful so we can identify not only our needs and desires, but also our strengths and opportunity areas. So, self awareness, always the foundation. So, that is step one in resilience building. So, you can really, again, acknowledge where are your strengths, where are your opportunity areas, and what do you need and desire in your life. And that alone will help you go through the remaining few practices I am about to share, because you can figure out then, once you have that self awareness, what practices might be most beneficial to bring into your routine to cultivate resilience. So, my first self care practice for you, which really focuses on the physical aspect, and maybe even you could argue some of the emotional aspect as well. Um, The first practice is breath work. Your breath is everything, right? Breath is life. And our breath is the most easily accessible tool we have to regulate our nervous systems. It is the best tool for you to get back into your body, to get your body back into a parasympathetic nervous system state. That is that rest and digest state. And what I love about breath work is you can do breath work both proactively to build up resilience, and you can use breath work in the moment when you're being triggered to calm yourself down, get you out of that fight, flight, or freeze state. So for breath work, I'll be honest, breath work is something I've accessed and found very helpful in the setting of Kundalini yoga. I do my best to get to, 2 classes a week to do that, but you don't have to go, to an official class to make breath work part of your self-care routine. It can literally be as easy as doing a deep breathing practice where you count your inhales and count your exhales, for a couple minutes a day. So there are a lot of different kinds of breath work, and I'm not going to go into all of them here, but it is important to know how to tap into your breath and how to use your breath to regulate your nervous system. And I have found the more I have done this proactively, then the more in the moment my brain goes to the solution of breath to get me through. Be it the trigger, be it just a difficult situation, be it when stress is, coming up, tapping into my breath, slowing down my breathing, and just feeling the breath is so helpful. So again, bringing it into your self-care routine, be it daily, a couple times a week, anything proactive is going to help you cultivate resilience. And again, employing it in the moment can be so powerful as well to get through a triggered moment or moments of time. So the next thing I want to talk about is a little more in cultivating some, I guess I'll call it more mental resilience, maybe even some emotional resilience. And that is slowing down and inviting in more gentleness to your life. So I have a whole episode on this concept, which I believe was episode 30 on being gentle to cultivate strength. But what I have done in my experience and what I've seen so helpful with clients and building resilience is, personally, I have stopped exhausting myself every day, with endless to-do lists and literally being on the go from the moment I wake up till the moment I go to bed, and allowing myself to slow down. Invite in more times throughout the week and more days throughout the month where I slow down and I allow myself to be more. And I give myself that time to reset and recharge. For me, I find it's much easier for me to slow down and be gentle when I get out into nature, go sit at a park, maybe go hike and sit at a mountaintop. But even, sitting by the fireplace and reading a book, or, putting on some music and watching the snowfall. All of those are things I have personally employed to slow down and be more gentle. And I've talked about this concept quite a bit over a few different podcasts, but in society today, we are so hammered with the belief that we have to, be super successful, which means we have to be super busy every day and that our agendas have to be totally packed. And that mindset is, quite frankly, it's killing us. That constant busyness just pumps cortisol into our bodies. And that cortisol is a stress hormone and it activates that fight or flight or freeze part of the nervous system. And it gets us into this chronic state of constantly being on. Our nervous system is constantly on alert. And that detracts from our resilience. So you need to slow down. You need to be gentle. And you need to rest. And that allows your nervous system to take a break. It allows you to move again more into that rest and digest, that parasympathetic mode. And the more we are in that rest and digest mode of our nervous system, the more our bodies will cultivate resilience. So the next practice I want to talk about, which kind of hits on physical, mental, emotional resilience, maybe even spiritual. I could argue could hit on all of them, to be honest, because it hits on social resilience as well. That practice is yoga. There are so many forms of yoga out there. If you have maybe tried some yoga and you didn't like it, I encourage you to try again because there are so many different kinds. I feel like there's a yoga for everybody out there. But yoga literally means yoking your mind and your body together. And you do that through movement and you do that through the breath. So you can get into, again, that parasympathetic rest and digest nervous system component. The movement actually allows us to release trauma and to release emotions out of our body. And as we are breathing, we are inviting in those more calm states of that parasympathetic nervous system. So yoga is so beautiful. It hits on so many levels. But again, I've seen personally and with my clients who really get into a good yoga practice, it is such a great teacher and it is so helpful for getting us to build up our resilience to when stress happens. Again, for me, I do a few different yogas. I love doing restorative yoga. I love yin. But I ultimately really do have a passion for Kundalini yoga. And there's a lot of breath work and there's a lot of meditation in there. But ultimately, all of it together, all the yoga has been helpful in building my resilience. It's been almost a solid year now that I've been at one studio very regularly. And I've got to say, the amount of transformation I can see in myself and the amount of additional resilience I've been able to build just from having a regular yoga practice has been monumental. So I encourage you, if that resonates with you, if you've been thinking about it, give it a try. It is a beautiful practice to bring into your life for building resilience. Now, the next one I want to talk about is a little broad, but it kind of hits on some mental, emotional, spiritual aspects of building resilience. And that is employing some expression tools. So, when I say expression tools, I'm really talking about tools to help us express our emotions. So, that could be journaling, it could be dancing, it could be artwork, it could be writing poetry, but ultimately giving the emotions a place to go, giving yourself a place to express your emotions is so important in building resilience. Sometimes when we get triggered, right, and we don't really know what to do with it, or even just on a normal day, shit is going to happen in life, and we might not know immediately how we feel about it. And we might need some time to process what is showing up for us. And as I found, again, both personally and professionally with clients, is that when we bring in expression tools more frequently, it really helps us navigate our experience better. It helps us connect into our emotions and connect into what we're feeling or what even might be showing up in our body. And by giving those emotions a place to go, we're not building up charge. We're not building up that emotional charge in the body, which ultimately is going to create space, emotional space, and it builds resilience when we're able to do that. So, I don't do work with my expression tools every day. I kind of bring them in as I feel called to them. Though for me, I would say, journaling has been super helpful for me, but it's also a really great place to start if you don't currently have any expression tools that you're working on, or even if you are called to do something more like painting or drawing again, or some dancing, any of it works. But again, allowing yourself to feel into the emotions that are showing up on a day to day or week to week basis, however frequently you want to do it, and allowing yourself to release them and express them. Really important to create space in our bodies to release emotional charge and ultimately help us in building our resilience. So, a quick one here. It's not so much like a practice. Well, maybe it is a practice. I don't know. But to build resilience, I want to talk about sleep. Okay, because you really cannot have resilience or cultivate resilience if you are not sleeping. Sleep is so essential for the body to repair. And more importantly, regular sleep is absolutely necessary for your nervous system to repair. So having good sleep hygiene, going to bed, waking up at certain times, maybe taking some herbs at night to help you sleep. There's a lot that goes in with sleep. I could probably do a whole episode on this. Maybe I will. Let me know if you want that. But ultimately, insomnia is not going to help you build resilience. You need regular, restful, uninterrupted sleep to build resilience. So if you are suffering from insomnia, you are welcome to grab a clarity call with me in the description below, because that is something that needs to be overcome. If you truly want to build up resilience, you've got to be able to have that physical and mental resilience built up and cultivated through good sleep practices. We've got to get you sleeping. So let me know if you need support on that, but it is imperative when we're talking about resilience. So a couple more quick notes on building resilience. I've done, I think, a couple podcasts now on this concept, so I'm not going to belabor the point. But when it comes to the spiritual, the emotional, the mental components of resilience, meditation, you guys, it's everything. When it comes to resilience, I believe meditation really helps us cultivate the ability to listen to our higher self. And I feel like that allows us to be guided and allows us to receive answers more rapidly. And I feel like when we have that connection through meditation to our higher selves, it does help us navigate the journey with more ease because we are receiving answers. We're receiving our clarity more rapidly. Meditation also, does activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So it's very calming and nourishing to the nervous system. There are a lot of benefits from meditation. If you don't have it in your self-care practice yet, this is another gentle reminder to put it in because it will help you in building resilience. I got to make a quick note, give some deep respect to my roots in healing as, a holistic nutritionist. I do have to say that nutrition is so important for building resilience. I used to do workshops on the alkalizing versus acidifying foods and moods. And the ultimate message there is you are what you eat. If you eat a bunch of acidic foods, if you're eating a lot of fast foods and things that you are allergic to, you have delayed food allergies to, you are going to be acidic and you are going to have crappy moods. It is going to put you in that fight or flight state, and it is not going to be nourishing. On the reverse side, if you eat an alkalizing diet that is very nutrient dense, that is very anti-inflammatory, you are giving your body the nutrients it needs to stay happy. You are more likely to be loving and accepting and truthful. And it also helps you stay in that parasympathetic nervous system rest and digest state. So if your diet needs some help, again, you can jump on a clarity call with me. I am happy to talk to you about it. It is still a big part of the healing plans I work with clients, because on the recovery and transformation journey, making sure we have a solid foundation of nutrition and again, building this resilience in our physical body is super important. So I had to mention that there. So, the last thing I'm going to touch on in building resilience is in building social resilience. And that is making sure we have community, that we have tribe. We need to have people that we feel connected to in our life, that we feel we can communicate with freely, that we feel we can authentically go to, have space held for us, as we're moving through life. Our connections to our brothers, our sisters, and when I say brothers and sisters, I mean our soul family, right? It doesn't have to be your blood relatives necessarily, but people that you have a shared intimacy with and a shared connection. That is so important to building resilience. We were not meant to live in silos. We were meant to live in tribe. And so with that, making sure you have your network, you have your people, you have your community is everything. And if you feel like you don't have that community, make sure you jump on a clarity call with me, because I would love to help you find that community, because it really is a key component to building this resilience. So with all of those practices, I hope at least one, maybe two, jumped out to you, and you're thinking about how you can bring those into your life and into your self-care routine. But I want to remind you that you cannot simply work with these tools only when challenges are presented. You cannot just pull these levers, as a challenge or difficulty arises. Maybe that's where it starts for you. Maybe you go through something, you're like, oh shit, I got to start bringing in some more self-care practices. Or maybe you even start while you're feeling good and you're in flow and you have good energy. But I just want to point out a huge key to building resilience is that these self-care practices need to be happening regularly. And these tools really need to be integrated into your lifestyle and into your routine. When you have regular self-care that includes these resilience building tools and practices, that is the foundation for you to navigate your journey with more ease. So to finish up here today, I'm going to quickly go back to what did I do when I was triggered recently? Luckily, all of the tools that I mentioned previously in this podcast are the things that I have incorporated into my life and my self-care routine. So with that, and having that resilience already built up in me, I was really able to first and foremost even notice the fact that I was being triggered. That self-awareness part is everything. And these tools that I shared today have helped me in cultivating that self-awareness. And that allowed me to identify what was showing up. Now, also because of all these resilience tools, instead of reacting to the trigger, right, and shutting down and screaming or crying or, having a big breakdown, right, I was able to slow myself down, feel into it, and really respond to it. To slow down, I took some gentle time my first day back. I did some breath work and some meditation, allowed myself to, take the time to feel into what was happening in my heart space and what was showing up with my emotions. And I really got curious about why, why were these feelings showing up? After my meditation and breath work, I went into journaling practice. And that really allowed me in the journaling to flesh out and uncover the core wound that was showing up for me. And it was, the abandonment wound that was being hit on in this situation. And so when that showed up, I reached out to my community, my tribe. I have some dear sisters I reach out to when things are feeling a little wonky. And I knew that they could hold space for me. And, they let me talk it through and they helped me process. So the community aspect was huge in that. And then, ultimately, once I found that clarity and kind of found my center and was able to identify all that had happened, I ultimately I checked in with my heart, and I really want my heart to always remain open. And so I knew that this had to be communicated, with my partner when he was ready to converse about it. And we did, and we talked about it. And honestly, in going through that whole process, I feel like we are more connected now than we ever have been. And we are more deeply connected now because of what we both went through. And because both of us have employed tools to build up resilience and navigate these challenges, I really believe that's what makes us such a strong couple. And, as I've been reflecting about it, I think about this. And had I been presented with the same situation just probably even 2 years ago, I probably would have likely just ended the relationship, ran for the hills, abandoned the situation before there was any chance that I could be abandoned. But now, because I have built up my resilience, and I have this strength and this stamina and this toughness, I know I can more easily and peacefully navigate my journey, as I continue to move forward. And it is this resilience that has been a huge key to my transformation and recovery process. And I want it for you too. I want you to feel this resilience so you can navigate these situations when they come up with more ease. So that is it for this episode, my darling friends, on resilience and how we need it to navigate our journeys with more ease. Remember, it's about taking a proactive approach to cultivate resilience in your life so that you are able to navigate the ebbs and the difficulties and the challenges more easily when they arise by being able to respond with more grace and more compassion. Take inventory of these practices I shared with you today. Maybe choose one or two to add into your self-care routine and begin building it into your foundation, to cultivate this resilience. I trust that as you continue to employ these practices, you will begin to notice in time that you are navigating your recovery and transformation journey with more ease. And that's good for us all. So thank you. And if you want to go farther on this journey and deepen the work on your recovery and transformation, make sure you check out my new membership, the Alchemize Collective, where I have created a sacred transformational container for all of us to do the work of addiction recovery, trauma healing, and personal transformation together. You can email me, check out the description below for more, or even sign up for a clarity call to chat about it. But okay, tribe, let's remember that this is all about making the world a more beautiful place. And that begins with you. Because as you better yourself and you move through your recovery and your transformation journey, you are beautifying our world. I hope you found this episode helpful, and I appreciate you being on your transformational journey with me. As always, if you need support on your journey as you heal from addiction and trauma, or on preparing for or integrating plant medicine journeys, make sure you grab your free clarity call with me below, because I would be honored to guide you on your personal transformation. That is all for today, dear tribe. Until next time, mwah, much love to you all. Hey tribe, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button below and then click subscribe so you catch future episodes. And remember, I've got lots of free resources for you to learn about the powers of intentional plant medicine use in order to support your trauma healing and personal transformation journey. So make sure you check them out in the description below and help in making this a more beautiful world for us all. Thanks again for tuning in, tribe. And until next time, much love to you all.